The account of 2 Timothy chapter 1 verses 8. Therefore, do not be ashamed of the testimony of our Lord, nor of me, his prisoner, but share in suffering for the gospel by the power of God. According to Paul, reading in the book of 2 Timothy, suffering is one of the elements of life. He believes that it is part of the journey of faith, and it is through suffering that we grow closer to God. He also stated that suffering can be used to glorify God and to be a source of strength. He encouraged believers to remain faithful in the midst of suffering and to trust in God's plan. He promised that God will be with us and provide strength during difficult times. The letter was reading when he was in prison and he was falsely accused. He kept as prisoner and he knew any minute he would die. Paul stated that we should remember him as an example of faith and courage, and that his story will bring hope and strength to generations to come. He ends this letter with a final plea for us to remember him and to never give up hope, no matter how difficult the situations might seem. He encourages us to trust in God and to trust in his plan for our lives. But then he goes on and explains how suffering will be a part of his ministry in the coming millennium and how these help build and edify the church in the coming centuries. He has stated that suffering will be a test of faith for the church and that those who pass it will be rewarded with eternal life. He said the suffering is a necessary part of a Christian life and that it will bring strength and growth to the believers. He encouraged believers to trust in God during the difficult times and to remember that He is always with them. He said that suffering can be endured with joy and that it can lead to spiritual growth. Philippians chapter 1, verses 6. Being confident of this very thing, that he which has begun a good work in you will perform it until the day of Jesus Christ. Also, Paul gave us a reminder that suffering can lead to a deeper understanding of God's purpose and that it can bring unity and strength to the church. He encouraged believers to turn to God in the midst of their suffering and to remember that He is in control and that it is His power, His authority, His strength. He also encouraged believers to pray in all kinds of prayers for strength and courage during the difficult time. He emphasized the importance of trusting in God's plan and believed that He will provide for them. He also encouraged believers to stay connected to their faith and to turn into prayers for comfort and strength. In the days of Paul's suffering for the sake of Jesus was a reality for him, and the suffering comes into play through his entire letter. And as we continue to explore and expose the suffering, we bring into a deeper sense of where Paul was going through, all the suffering he endured through his ministry. Paul was an example of courage and strength and faith, and his words remind us of the power of perseverance and rejoicing in the midst of the deep suffering. His suffering was an act of obedience to God, and his legacy reminds us an example of the power of faith and love. His example encouraged us to never give up, no matter the cost. His legacy is also a powerful reminder of the power of mercy and grace of God. His story also served as a reminder of the power of forgiveness and in the power of redemption. His example will continue to inspire and motivate generations to come. Brother and